Well, hello and welcome along to another We Happy Few 506 podcast slash The Nearly Men with my beautiful squinting host in Berlin, Doug Allen. How are you, Dougie boy?
I'm very well, thank you, Matt. How are you doing?
Fantastic. We have a wonderful guest this afternoon, evening, depending on where you are. A bit of a surprise from the world of athletics, Usain Bolt. Josh Bolt. I got that wrong. We're doing Usain another time. I did think you looked a bit different from your pictures. Josh, that's a terrible joke. I told you I had three kids before we came on. It's a
No, it's
proper
fine.
dad joke.
Yeah,
It's not fine.
yeah.
That's not fine.
No.
Feel free to edit that out. Um, Josh, I was watching you last night in Masters of the Air. You played Pappy Lewis in the hit Apple TV show Masters of the Air, which we will get onto. Um, we'll dive down into it. We've got Matt Mabe as well from the 100th Bomb Group. How you doing, Maddie?
Very well. How are you guys?
Good. We're good, thank you. Thank you for all the kiddie toys that you gave me in your car. And now your garage is empty and mine's completely full. Thanks for that. I've got a question before we get going for Josh. Jurgen Klopp's leaving Liverpool.
Right. Okay. So don't judge me. I think there's about three Liverpudlians who don't do football, and I'm one of them.
And you're all three of them, yeah.
And I'm all three of them. All of my family are passionate Reds. Like my
Right.
sister and my grandmother had a breakdown a couple of weeks ago when that was announced. Like, I don't know what we're going to do. It's never ever. I just don't get it, which I know is really bizarre.
So
Especially
you
coming from
seriously
Liverpool.
wander around Liverpool saying, I don't get football, but I do wear makeup, and you've not been knifed or cut in any way.
No, exactly. No, my sister's a real tomboy. She used to play for the Liverpool girls,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I dress up and wear makeup for a living. I've just never. All my friends love it, but I always have done film and music instead. And even as I'm older, my mate took me. He's a season ticket holder, and he used to take me to Anfield. He took me three times, and three times I went, he got absolutely battered. So I was barred from going. I was as unlucky. Yeah, basically.
So since Masters of the Air, are you less of a disappointment to your family because of that?
Yeah, that's
Because I had
one bonus.
the exact same thing with my family when Band of Brothers came out. Finally, my dad, who was a colonel in the parachute regiment, finally he's calling me.
He's
Just backtracking on what he said for like the last 15 years as well.
yeah. No,
Where he'd say, yeah, I'd say I want to be an actor. He'd say, no, it's pronounced soldier, son. And then finally, he's on board and he's wearing, makeup and doing musicals now. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, where were you 15 years ago, Dad?
Brilliant. So yeah, no, thanks to Masters of the Air. Now they are speaking to me. Yeah, but I'm sorry to not have a better answer about Jurgen. I just does nothing for me.
Jurgen does nothing for you. Okay. Well, that was the first 15 minutes of the podcast I had planned. So I'm just gonna, this may be a truncated podcast, people, just so you know. I will get on to Masters of the Air, Matt. I do want you here and all the rest of it. I do have some slightly flippant questions to start with. I was having a look at your IMDb, Josh, which is very impressive, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Cracking along excellently. There's been some really cool stuff, and we will talk about Catch 22 as well. But you were in Van der Valk. You had a guest in Van der Valk. And I don't know. Mark Warren, who's the lead, was in Band of Brothers. He plays Blythe, and he's a great actor, but he has been known as to be called the King of Excess. And I have at least 1,000 Mark Warren stories, none of which are printable. I'm just wondering if you have one that particularly sticks out for you. I know he's like zen and on the wagon and everything now. So
yeah, the whole reason I really wanted that job was to work with Mark Warren, because as an actor, I just think he's phenomenal. Not just Band of Brothers, but the amount of the volume of stuff he's done in the last 20, 30 years.
yeah.
So I really wanted that, just to get to work with him. And he was absolutely lovely. He's so zen and straight, and he doesn't sort of very intense. But it was sort of that he nails that fine balance that I still try and do. That's so difficult. That film acting that where it looks like you're doing absolutely nothing, and yet he's doing everything at the same time. So I had my first big scene with him, which is at the end, which isn't a spoiler because it's been out for like a year now. I kill everyone, and then we have a shootout on top of this like subway station in Amsterdam. And I'm like screaming and spitting and shouting and, you know, really going for it. And the camera's on him, and all he's got to say is, Gert, who's my character, he's basically like, you know, you need to put the gun down. And he literally is doing, it is like, you know, just doing. And it was like amazing to watch. But he was extremely supportive. Really lovely. Sent me a lovely text at the end of it saying if I ever need anything to give him a shout, which was nice. But no, I have no crazy. I've heard things, again, none of which are printable.
None are printable. I mean, they're beyond not printable, yeah.
But no, he was a really sweet, lovely. I think he's the exec producer on it as well now, so he has a lot of control over it. But I just had a lovely time. I had 3 weeks in Amsterdam and worked 4 days. It was great.
Because when I heard there was a show that put Mark Warren in Amsterdam, I was like, oh, that's a bad idea. That's a bad idea.
He just runs a lot. He has 2 watches. So he had Van der Valk's watch on, his character watch, and then he has his Zen watch, which goes off every now and then. He has to go meditate and take himself off. And you know, I am gutted. I would love to have seen Mark Warren 10 years ago, because he said, I don't know if he did this, I don't know, maybe you can cut round it. He said, we were talking about Masters of the Air, because this was, when was round about 2022 we did that. So he was like, oh, we were talking about Masters, and we were talking about our various stories of what it was like, and Captain Dye and Hanks and Spielberg and all, you know, the whole thing. And then he was like, you know, every night after you'd finished filming, did you get on it? And I was like, well, yeah, but it's not the 90s anymore, unfortunately. Everyone's got to be, there's no room for it. It used to be when I started, you were allowed to sit in the bar till 5 o'clock in the morning and then go straight to set, whereas now it's like, and he went, and I was like, well, did the Band of Brothers guys? And he was like, oh, yeah. And I was like, would have loved to have been that, you know.
Within our, within our WhatsApp chain, everybody's in recovery now, so I don't really think really wanted to be there. Go ahead.
You and Mark were really close, weren't you? You hung out. Yeah. I think you share a flat for a while as well.
You mean, did I crash on his floor half dead for a month? Yeah, but then we weren't. I wasn't technically paying rent, but yeah. I've got a good Mark Warren story for you, Josh, actually, about because I had the same thing. So I was like, oh man, this guy's a brilliant actor. I've seen him in like Boston Kick Out and all these stuff when he was just a crazy dude. And the episode 3 of Band of Brothers starts with me finding Blythe, and he's kind of looking up, and he's like got that hysterical blindness and everything. And there's a sort of stuff between us, and I was kind of nervous about it. So about a week before, we were filming nights. And he's just, you know what he's like? He's kind of lone wolf. He's just kind of off in the corner of the room looking weird. He's being weird. So I go up to him and I was like, hey, mate, listen, we've got a scene in episode 3. And he was dead intense. He was like, yeah. I was like, do you mind if we run the lines? He's like, okay. So he gets his helmet and he puts it down over his eyes to about here. So I come over and I'm like, Blythe. And he just goes, Germans? Are there any fucking Germans? He was just like the stupidest fella I've ever met. He just had his eyes crossed. Like, yeah, I'm not really intense. I just look intense. That's what it is. I just look like Malcolm McDowell.
Yeah, that's the sense I got of him as well. You know, it took a while for me to get into. Do you know what I mean? I think when he knows you and he trusts you and he likes you and he knows you're not a dick, he'll be. You know what I mean? But I was gutted that I was only there for 3 weeks. Otherwise, it would have been a great, because I just keep emailing the writers, because one of the writers is a Liverpudlian woman. And I'm like, please, can I come back? Please, can I just come back as
a reformed character?
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Can I help the police things? You know what I mean? I'd somehow do something, because it was just a great, job. But that is brilliant. That is, how old were you in Band of Brothers then?
25.
Wow. God.
I know. Forever young.
What year was that shot?
2000.
Wow. Bloody hell. Mental.
Yeah. I know. And yet we're still cracking on.
I do have one story about Mark that he told me that he obviously, I think everyone knows he's kind of lives a very clean and serene life, but he He's telling me that he got into meditation, and he got into it so deeply that he decided to burn his possessions, and he got all his like everything, like all his clothes, his furniture, photos, like everything, and then burnt it. Burnt everything. He had burnt everything out. And I said, but how did you feel about it? And he went, yeah, I regretted it. It's like, yeah, okay. Yeah. But it was just something that he would do, you know what I mean? That sort of intensity. He's always kind of been like that, isn't he? He's a really interesting guy. I always love, occasionally, rarely when I bump into him or chat with him.
Oh, he's great. Every so often I'll WhatsApp him and he'll just call me back straight away. Hello, mate, and he just goes off on.
Yeah,
he's great. Yeah. There's another. Sorry, we'll get to something serious in a minute. But there's another actor that was off the rails as well. That both me and Ducky know as well. That was on band, and he got to the point where he was living under a bridge because he went totally off the rails. And he was like, I was like, well, what was that like? He went, it's all right. All you need is a blanket and a really big knife in case anyone tries to steal your blanket.
Is he okay now? Is he?
He's fine now. He's absolutely fine. Yeah, he's got kids and he's doing great.
He's doing great. Yeah.
He pops on every now and again it's a proud reprobate.
I'm just wondering which one of us. Sorry,
are you? Because I think you can tell that all of us guys from Band of Brothers, like, we all still know each other, and that's, for most of us, the biggest thing that we've got from it is our friendship. Do you feel that is happening with you guys?
1,000%, completely 1,000%. I'm just wondering which one of us is going to live under a bridge and burn all of our things. That's what I think it's going to happen in the next 10, 20 years. No, Doug, completely. My crew especially, because obviously it's such an overwhelming project. It's the biggest thing any of us have ever done. Certainly, as a load of 20-year-old guys, we're all at different points in our careers. Some guys were just starting out. Some guys have done, friends of mine who've been in the industry for 15 years, who've done bits and bobs. But obviously, the magnitude of what we were doing, let alone the importance of it being a real story and, doing a service to the real soldiers we were playing, the real guys. But at the same time, just the magnitude of Steven Spielberg, Tom Hanks, Apple TV, the budget, the scope of it. And there was it was overwhelming, but we were so lucky with our crew that we sort of, Rosie's Riveters, to go off on our own, that we were quite self-contained. So me, Nate, Ian and Dean, the four of us would just basically did everything together, which was lovely. And now Ian I see every time I'm in London, because I'm back in Liverpool, but Ian I speak to most days. Dean, we all have a WhatsApp group still. Nate, obviously, who's Rosie, is completely on his massive journey now, quite rightly so. But he's, he dips it. I FaceTimed him the other night when Ep7 came out. And I hope that that's exactly what's happening with you guys. I feel like, for some of us, we'll be friends in the next 20 years. Hopefully.
That's good.
It gets to the point where you just can't get rid of them, to be honest with you. Just show up to everything. And I think this is a good point to start talking about your character. We'll talk about Rosie's Riveters, and we'll talk about the group and everything. I wonder if we can bring Matt Mabe in, of the 100th Bomb Group, just to give us a short biog of the guy that Josh played, Pappy, and feel free to tell the story as well with the bald spot as well, Matt, because otherwise I'm stealing that, and I think that was you told me. So
I'll let Josh have that one. No, it's interesting. Like any of these crews, these guys were from all walks of life, all parts of the country. Lewis was from Texas. I was actually talking to Josh about this over Messenger a couple of weeks ago. He worked in the lumber industry at a lumber yard before the war. It's funny. He has the name Pappy, but he was a year younger than Rosie was. but enlisted like a lot of these guys in 42, and these guys all came together and all hit it off, and much like you guys have a bond that hopefully will carry on, like these guys did as well. And I know Lewis was a big part of that in terms of staying connected with Rosie and some of the other guys that lived in Texas after the war. But he, as you saw in the series, he flew his 25 missions. I was curious, Josh, from your perspective, seeing photos of the real guys and like learning about some of their bio history, like what was it like to connect with the guys in that way?
Oh, unbelievable! It was, yeah. It's that photo you sent the other day where it's like it was a meeting in the and it was De Blasio, it was Milburn, Bailey, Lewis, Rosie, Robinson, and someone else, and it was all the guys together still, and we all do look quite similar, even though those were older gentlemen at that stage. You can sort of see it. Oh, Bailey looks a bit like Ian in 60 years' time, I imagine. Yeah, I just felt, as I say, so lucky that our crew was our crew. Do you know what I mean? That there was no one difficult in it. But there was, and a lot of that came from Nate. Hugely came from Nate, because it was his first job out of drama school. He graduated Juilliard in 2020 during COVID, and that was his first role. Was Rosie, his first proper screen role, which amazing thing for him to get. And we sort of had a word quite early on because he'd seen Catch 22 and he knew some of my work already, and he knew I was a bit more experienced on sets and the technical side of stuff. So he sort of said to me, "You're my co-pilot. I'll let you basically run with this. You rally the troops." Do you know what I mean? So that Nate could focus, which was really nice of him to do. So I sort of was entrusted with, "Okay, fellas, do you know what I mean? Let's keep things together. Let's have a laugh. Let's be serious. Let's go to the bar. Let's go for dinner." Which was quite nice of Nate to allow me to do that.
Wow. So I mean, I watched episode 7 last night. Um, Rosie's Riveters at that point have done 25 missions. Which, if that's the 25th mission, is
yes,
last night's episode.
Yeah.
You make it back. Matt, can you just talk us through what an unbelievable achievement that is, considering the casualty rates that were happening to the 100th Bomb Group at that time?
I mean, that was to survive 25 missions in 43 was almost nothing short of a miracle. They finished in March 44, which was still an amazing accomplishment. But I mean, if you think about it, these guys flew during Black Week. They survived the Bremen mission that so many guys went down on. They survived Munster. And there's a great quote by Lewis. He was interviewed for a book many years ago, and they asked him, what are your reflections on being the only crew that made it back from Munster? And he said, I'm still grateful for our deliverance. And it's one of those things where it's like the strange tricks of fate that play out in our lives that we'll never know, like, why me? Why did I make it back? And he was a religious man and was just, just reflected on that experience of, the luck of the draw, a bit of divine intervention getting him back. But it was an incredible
in the
feat.
show. The fellow at the bar, whose name I don't know, I apologize. The officer at the bar says it's to do with how good a flyer he is. I've never seen anyone fly the B-17 like that. Like, how is he just trying to rally the new recruits by saying that, or how much of that is true? How good a pilot can you be to avoid flak and incoming planes and all sorts of stuff? Is there an element of just blind luck?
I mean, the veterans will tell you sometimes, a lot of times, it's, as Frank Murphy's book is called, The Luck of the Draw. It is the luck of the draw. But the guys will tell you as well, not only was Rosie a phenomenal leader, but was a fantastic pilot. And I think they captured very well in that the like evasive maneuvers he's taking. And Rosie's in an interview where he talks about the gunners were like, "Hey, can you please keep a steady platform?" And Rosie is taking all these evasive maneuvers, and that's what it took. I mean, he was taking the B-17 to the limits, and it worked out. So I think him being a phenomenal pilot certainly contributed to that, and just also being a good leader. You saw humming that tune, keeping the guys calm, and leading them through it.
And how was it filming that, Josh? Is a lot of it CGI? Are you on a gimbal?
Yeah, it was insane. It was what Matt said really about Rosie as well, is that Nate was that I can't speak highly enough of Nate in that all those maneuvers he did. I can't remember, Matt, you probably know it better than I do. The maneuver he did, there was a technical name for it where he sort of flew up and round. It was called like something dance. I can't remember what it was called. And Nate vigorously rehearsed that with the army guys who were helping us, the military advisors. He and the flight technicians. He really was, practiced that till he just knew it backwards. Filming all of that, the Munster mission especially took months because it's so. I think it's 17 minutes long is on screen, and it was new technology that I think the Mandalorian had used, the Disney Star Wars thing had used, but we were sort of the first, because they did like a little bit in it, whereas a lot of the show is what the missions, the fly missions. And that it was built on a gimbal, so they were built to sort of scale. All 360 around us, it wasn't green screen, it was like a computer. So there's like 10,000 Macs running at once. There are planes coming at you. It's all filmed. It's all on this complete 360 view where there's a plane here. So you really do. It was like being in a video game. It was insane. But obviously, when you go up in that cockpit, me and Nate would be, in the pilot and co-pilot seat, we were up there for 5-6 hours sometimes because it was like such a faff, especially with all the gear on, the Mae West, the parachute, the flying jacket. When you're up in that cockpit, it was like a full day of just you're in there, because to move the camera an inch to get everyone out and then again, it was such a faff. So those days turn to weeks, turn to months in the studio. I mean, an amazing experience because it was so technically well done. We really didn't have to do much. It was just reacting to, okay, 5 o'clock. There's an enemy. It was, and the directors were amazing at that as well because they were so like, we'd stop and how they cut it together was insane because we literally would do a little tiny bit and then stop and then move a camera and do it again and do, but on a thrilling experience, like genuinely the coolest thing I've ever done, just from a technical point of view as well. It was like insane. And I think it really did. I think it's worked quite well on screen.
So when you're up in the cockpit and you've got all your gear on and you've been made up and you're sort of up in the gimbal, are you kind of stuck there?
Yeah, basically. So it was the height of summer as well. Yeah. So it was the height of like June, July, August. So it was really hot in 2021. And obviously you've got the full, because the amazing costume designer, Clean Atwood, was quite insistent that we have absolutely every detail on. So you have the full uniform, officer's uniform on, then the flight suit, then the jacket, then the Mae West, then the parachute, the hat, the breathing apparatus, the goggles. So you are literally just like, I don't know how those guys did it, physically could move, let alone fly a plane, because the amount of gear they had on was insane. And then was the best invention of any costume woman's come up with were these cooling packs. So it was like a suit that went on underneath all this, just on your bare chest. And then you hook it into a little ice cool bag of water, and that would just bring water around your, because in the end it was like, one of the guys literally had a panic attack on our crew. One of the guy who played de Blasio, who was the machine gunner, because he's 6'3", and he had all the gear on. He crawls into this little space with his machine gun, and it was so hot, and they had to bail him out because he just couldn't. He was just full on panicking because it was that hot.
I was going to point out that they were thousands of feet up in the air with the doors open. If you're in the studio,
but that was the challenge as well. Is like the guy directs me like, "Hey guys, you need to remember that you are exactly. You are 50,000 feet above the air. You're not in a studio in London in the height of summer." So those cooling packs were a godsend, because it really was like, not that I'm in any way comparing what we had to go through to what the real guys had to go through. It was just like quite a technically stressful situation and then of course challenging, because as an actor, I know everyone says, oh, the eyes are the window to the soul and you're meant to be able to use your eyes, but when it's literally like that and every other guy is like that, you're trying to think, how do I stand out? How can I do something here to try and stand out that's not over the top.
Is that why you're wearing those Pac-Man lenses? You put those special contacts in.
Exactly.
Do you think they'll notice me?
So yes, that whole all those missions that we flew in the studio was an amazing experience. Brilliant. And I just got to sit with me and Nate and in between every setup we took our speakers in, so we were allowed to take a turn in putting songs on. I got kicked off in the end because all of my music choices were far too extreme for an Apple TV studio.
Were they all musical numbers?
It was Rob Zombie and Stone Temple Pilots. It doesn't go down well.
It does in 1997. The thing about Stuck in the Cockpit, it reminded me of it. And that story of another great actor, John Hurt. Right, so a mate of mine was in a film with John Hurt. I love John Hurt, and I was saying, what was it like to work with him? And he was saying, well, we did this setup, and it was a courtroom scene. So it was on a jib, so that goes up like this on a crane shot, goes all the way through the gallery, it moves all the way around. Someone picks up the camera, moves it through. It's all one take, moves it through, and it ends up on John Hurt like that. And he's supposed to just stand up and go, "My lord, that's just not fair." So they're like, "Okay, so we've got this is going to take ages to reset. So let's try and get this in one." So they goes action, and it goes up on a jib shot. Comes around to the jury, everybody in the gallery, someone takes it off the jib, walks around, goes to John Hurt. John Hurt goes, "I'm sorry, have I got time for a shit?" I don't know why being stuck in a cockpit reminded me of that, but it did. Before we get cracking, before we get the Luftwaffe in, do you mind if
I had amazing 2 weeks with John Hurt on a Doctor Who audio book, and I was playing his companion.
Really?
We broke for lunch one day. This was like towards the end of the first week, and he goes, "I think I'm going to the pub." And I went, "Would you like to come?" And I was 21 or something, and obviously I was like, "Yes, I do, but I can't." So we go to the pub. He drank a bottle of white wine in about 45 minutes over his lunch. I think I had one shandy. We go back to the studio, and he is quite, he's a little bit inebriated. And we go back into the studio, and he puts his cans on, and obviously Doctor Who is. I love Doctor Who, but some of the dialogue is quite nonsensical. It's all the Santarans and the moon is crashing, and he's John Hurt. He's the best of the best. But he sat there with his cans on, a little bit white wine drunk, and the Santarans and fuck it. And he goes outside into the little garden, a cigarette, comes back in, completely stone cold sober. Went back into the booth and nailed it in one. And I was like, that's a serious pro. You know what I mean? Like,
that's experience.
That's the John Hurt way.
that's the John Hurt way.
The experience of being pissed and working that's come from 40 years, 50 years of experience.
The real old school thing.
But, back when back when theatres, when you're like rehearsing for a play or something, they'll just have wine on the table, wouldn't they, at lunch?
They
only stopped that in the 90s, didn't they?
Yes, because no one could remember their lines. That's why we've cut rehearsals down by 4 weeks. It's incredible. Let's go back to the beginning, and then I want to ask you about. Let me ask you about Catch-22 first. Then we'll go back to the beginning of Masters of the Air, because that makes sense to me. So you played Dunbar. Am I right? You played Dunbar?
Yes. Yeah.
In Catch-22. So he's kind of Yossarian, sort of mirrors Yossarian's character. I've read Catch-22 about 30 times. So how was that experience? Because my mate, I don't know if you know Martin Delaney.
Yes, lovely Martin.
Delaney was in it. Yeah, he's a good dude, isn't he? He said that working with George Clooney was an absolute dream, but directors are different with different people. How did you find it?
Amazing. He's the nicest guy I've ever met in my life. Clooney's the best of the best. There was absolutely I think because he's an actor as well, there's no bullshit. So rather than pontificating and trying to be pretentious and say, oh, this and that, he just goes, speed it up, slow it down. Don't do that face. You did that face. That doesn't work. So easy as an actor because you're just like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah. And so quick. So you don't have time to dwell on, we all overthink, I've just done that. Did that read right? I don't know if that works. Whereas you do it, no, got it, moving on to the next scene. So you didn't have time to dwell and be like, is that okay? He was the nicest guy ever. Bought us all push bikes to get proper, 1940s push bikes to get around the airbase that we were filming in Italy. And again, that whole job, we're all still very, as Doug said, you know, we're all still very close, that merry band. Obviously a lot of a smaller cast compared to Masters, but it was just 6 months in Italy with these, you know, beautiful men who were all so different. We were all, you know, completely at varying stages of our career. There was me and a Welsh guy, and everyone else was American. Who were all, I went out to LA a couple of years ago and stayed with them all. And we're all still got a WhatsApp group. We all still FaceTime. Lewis Pullman, Bill Pullman's son, he's just done Top Gun Maverick. And he took me and Garen, the other guy, to the premiere last year in Leicester Square. So that was a really lovely, same vein of like, you know, we all live in different continents, but we still will keep in touch. Just because I think what we shared for 6 months in Italy was so special. It's a mad thing what we're doing. We're doing a famous book in Italy. You know, it's Second World War again, with George Clooney. Do you know what I mean? It's like a real ridiculous pinch me moment.
Yeah, two things. I really want to punch George Clooney in the face now. I was hoping he was a dick. Man, couldn't at least be a dick. And the other, do you think, was there any crossover when you auditioned for Masters of the Air, which I'm going to come on to now? Great segue. Did it help that you were in Catch 22? Were you able to show footage and be like, I kind of look groovy in this gear, man?
The costume designer Jenny allowed me to keep my A3, the leather, not the shearling one. The I think that's the right term. Is it the A3 one, just the leather one? So I did my self-tape in that, which was great, which sort of kind of helped for Masters because I already had the jacket. Which was, you know, and plus the nice thing was as well, I still had a little bit of memory of the feathering on the planes and kind of knew where, because we had such a rigorous process of pre-production of, you know, learning the planes. And some of it was still there from Catch 4 or 5 years on. Oh, that's the feather, that's the thing, that's the button there. You know,
eject button. Sorry, wrong button.
Yeah, Catch was an amazing experience. It was brilliant. It was, as I say, it was this very same vein of Masters with a lovely group of lads. Again, because George Clooney's at the helm, there was no room for arseholes. You know, there was quite early on to the guys struggling for, you know, the sort of macho thing, and it just was immediately squashed because it's like, we're in Italy, we're in Sardinia, and then we went to Rome. Do you know, like George Clooney's taking us out for dinner. There's absolutely nothing to be upset about here. And Chris Abbott, who played Yossarian, was again led from the front and was just brilliant, phenomenal actor, phenomenal human being, love him. So yeah, so I took the jacket. Jenny Egan sent me the jacket, which I used for my self-tape for Masters. Which I don't know if it helped. I don't know if I think the casting directors sort of said to did show a little bit of Catch to Apple to be like, you know, he's done this before. But that whole, I don't know if that's where you want to start with, Matt, that whole audition process for Masters was insane. It was a real like uphill battle. I put myself on tape originally for Egan or Cleven in the September of 2020, which was still like the height of COVID. Put myself on tape and was like, I'm never going to get this. They're going to cast a tall, handsome American. And I was right. They probably cast the tallest, handsomest American they could. But I was like, do you know what though? Same as Catch 22. If I can do a good enough tape and somehow fit in here, as there's, you know, they need someone somewhere to, you know, for a good role. Maybe they'll come back to me. So it went quiet, and then January 21, they started the process of looking for. I think they cast Cleven and Egan and Crosby and Rosie, and then that process started of casting those supporting guys, which just went on and on for about 5 months. And I was, again, it was the time, because it's so top secret, because it's Apple. The scenes we got sent were like, literally one of the tapes I did was over there, sir. That was it. And it was like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that was one of the scenes I did for it. And then they came back again and said, could you do this other line, which was 5 o'clock high. Yes, sir. That was another. It was just like, because they didn't want to send anything because, for, I guess, for security reasons, and because there were so many guys auditioning for it. But yeah, it was just before my 27th birthday, the day before my 27th birthday, both my agents like FaceTime me. And I was like, oh, this is weird. And they said, we've just got an offer in off Lucy Bevan to play Pappy Lewis, who's in 4 episodes, and he's going to be the co-pilot of one of the leads, and send you the script. And I was like, oh, thank God for that. That was like, it was also happy birthday. Do you remember, as an actor, all you want is a job anyway. And then to get that job, it was like, oh, great, happy birthday to me. Do you know what I mean? It was brilliant.
Was it good birthday? Was it good night that night?
It was a very good night that night. I think I opened a bottle of wine, like literally as I put the phone down. It was about 11:30 in the morning. It was great. And that went on for about a week. And then the realization set in that I had to read this and go, oh, right, now I have to go to work. And really, there's a lot of prep involved here, which started quite quick. I then met Nate. They flew Nate in. We had 2 weeks together with Captain Di, marching, parading, doing the saluting and classroom work, getting to know the workings of a plane, the ranks, all that, the technical stuff. Then we went into one of the planes, into the cockpit with this guy called Ty, who was the aircraft advisor. And then we had the dialect sessions began, which was just, the dialect coaches were amazing, making sure that everyone, was spot on. Basically, there was 2 lovely women, Brett and Helen, who were amazing. And then it was about 3 days before shooting, and the director, Carrie, called me to set. And I thought, I've been recast already, or I've been sacked, or I don't know, something. I hadn't started shooting yet. They were shooting episode 3. And obviously, I didn't come in. Lewis doesn't come in till 4. So I get taken down to base, and it was the first time I've been to set, I was like, when you feel like you've slightly out of your depth, because it was just this humongous set with all these airplanes and explosions going off and all this, the equipment they had that went into it. And I got down there and I go over and meet Carrie, and he's like, hey, hello, how you doing? I'm like, hello, nice to meet you. So we just found out the guy you're playing, Lewis, was nicknamed the Bald Eagle because he lost his hair at 20. You've got quite good hair, haven't you? And I was like, yes, sir. That's one of the few endearing features I have. And he was like, would you mind if we thinned it and receded it and put a bald patch? And he was like, because it's never going to work on a wig, because you just know. And I was like, yeah, okay. So I went back to this makeup trailer, and this lovely team of makeup girls spent 4 hours, because they were being so conservative with her, because they felt so sorry for me. So it started where they'd do a little bit, and then they'd send a picture to Carrie, and he was like, no. And then in the end, it was just like, I was left with about 3 pieces here to comb over. It was all thin. And then this, that sort of, that bald bit at the back. And needless to say, that night I went back to the hotel and drank a lot of whiskey, just to make friends with it. It took a good couple of weeks to make friends with it. Just because it was a shock. It was like looking at my dad. I just looked like my dad, basically. So it was, that was sort of the...
I've seen the picture. Matt showed me the picture. We went for a beer the other day, me and Matt, and he showed me the picture, and I was like, well, if you whack that on Tinder now and you're doing well now, then the next few years you're golden, mate. Honestly.
It was it was just a bit of a shock. But obviously, though, really helped in that because obviously there was information I had on Lewis, but it then helped me create this character that then came from this haircut. That was like, okay, so I did my research on it. He was Rosie's sort of, right hand. Watch what Nate was doing in rehearsals, and I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll play it a bit more like this, as I've got this haircut to sort of, do you know what I mean, as a sort of juxtaposition to, and also all ego went out the window. When your first day is with Callum Turner, Austin Butler, and Nate Mann, 3 of the most good-looking men on the planet, and I'm stood there with this haircut like a little hobbit, it was like, I felt so free as an actor, because I wasn't worrying about, oh, do I look handsome enough? Because it was like, well, it's fine now. All vanity's gone, which was actually quite nice.
You were the actual literal wingman for those people. Can we put him next to Austin Butler so he looks even more handsome in this scene, please? And some golden sunlight on Austin's face and a toothpick, and he can stare that way handsomely for a while. Yeah.
It's funny, Josh. I was talking to Dan Rosenthal, and he's talking about how there's such like an admiration between Lewis and Rosie, and Rosie would call Lewis the bald eagle, and Lewis would call Rosie the legal eagle. So there's a mutual eagles there.
That was the total thing. Because obviously Rosie was just a lawyer, wasn't he? Or he was trained to be a lawyer before, which was the term. So he was the legal eagle, and Pappy became the bald eagle. But I was the line was cut. Before we didn't even shoot it. There was a line from Spees that said, "Come on, bald eagle," so unless you know who Pappy Lewis is, the general audience is just going to go, "Jesus Christ, the guy out of Benidorm's aged awfully," because there's no reference to it at all. If you're watching it just as a general viewer, it's like, what happened to the bloke from Benny? Do you know what I mean? But the only thing that we found as well that was the writer found at the last minute, and I was gutted. Apparently, I don't know if you probably know more, Matt. Lewis used to sleep on the wing of the plane before takeoff. So all the guys would be doing their checks and stuff, and Lewis would go for a nap. And we only found that bit of information out right at the end when we'd done all the location stuff. And obviously they're not going to do a pickup just for me to be asleep on a wing, which was a shame because it was like, that would have been quite, just as a little character thing, would have been nice.
Yeah. Pretty good if they'd have done a scene where they took off in a hurry and forgot you were on the wing as well.
yeah, exactly.
Clinging on for dear life.
Yeah. So that was the start of Masters for me. That was all. And then quite quickly made friends with the haircut, and then we were sorted in. That was it. We started episode 4. Luckily, I'd had that time with Nate, and then we've made really good friends with Laurie Davidson and Tim Preston, who played Spees, and I've forgotten his name. The other guy, Laurie Davidson, played in that first scene. We all come into it in episode 4, and the 4 of us were getting on really well. Nash, sorry, that's it. Nash and Spees, and obviously they both went down on their first mission. So we were all a bit like gutted because it was like, oh, me and Tim and Laurie and Nate, we had a lovely little thing going on the first few weeks, and then they were gone. And then we went on to episode 5, and then that's when the Riveters came into it, which was Ian, Dean, and those guys, which was then like, oh, brilliant. We were all, we quite quickly then became mates. And Ian and Dean just sort of threw themselves at me and Nate, and we threw ourselves at them. So, which was, quite nice to get the, and we just had a bit of we were called the maddest crew, in that we didn't take ourselves that seriously. I think every single crew had its own, all the runners and the producers all had names for each crew because of the actors that were in it and what they were getting up to. And we were just known as the mental ones, just because we were always doing something stupid, and just having a real proper laugh, until it was time to do the work. I think that's why we all got on so well, because we all have the same sense of humor until it was action. And then it was like, okay, focus, we're doing this. We all really worked so well together. Yeah.
There's we had him on actually, Paul Sanchez. There's a great documentary on the making of Platoon, which was filmed almost entirely, I believe, chronologically.
Oh, wow.
So these guys all got on really, really well. They were the first of like Dale Dye's mad, our goddamn boot camp, where they were just taken into like the jungle for a month and just eating dead bison and mad stuff. Yeah. They totally overshot that boot camp, and then they scaled it back because people were dying. But I forget who it is, John McKinley, someone like that, was saying that by the end, when the guys were dying off because they got together so well, that they'd get together at the bar, and then they'd be like, right, I have to go home tomorrow because I just got killed. And the other groups were really upset with them, like, if you're gonna go, just go. Do you know what I mean? Like they were actually losing friends. It was kind of really weird.
It felt like that on Masters, that at the start of that block 1 in episode 1, there was about 250 guys, and by the end, I finished in the December at the end of episode 7, and there was literally about 40 of the original guys there from April, from the first boot camp, which was quite, it was bizarre. It really was like, oh, that guy, he's gone. Oh, I wanted to say goodbye to him, I had a full, it's never happened to me on a set before. I don't know. I had a full breakdown when I rapped. Never happened to me in 15 years where I've literally wept. As soon as I got out the plane, we did the last shot, which was the last thing I filmed was the end of episode 7 when Rosie buzzes the tower. And there's a shot inside the plane of him saying, come on, Pappy, what do you think of that? We've done the 25 missions. And I'm like, oh my God, we did it. That was the last thing I shot. And then I got out the plane. I just wouldn't let go of Nate. It was bizarre. It really was. Never happened before on a job, but I literally was just cried my eyes out. It was like, I think just because of the length of time we were together as well. It was nearly a full year. The whole of 2021 was Masters of the Year. Yeah, bizarre.
Yeah. That's why me and Doug are still friends. It was like 25 years ago. At one point, we'll let go and stop annoying one another. So I mean, Masters itself is doing great. It's kicking ass, taking names, huge show. You're on the side of buses and open up your iPad and there it is. So, as a Liverpudlian, how do you get out of buying the rounds at the beers now? Because everyone assumably thinks that you're really rich when you're probably not, because they don't pay very much these shows.
No.
So how are you getting out of buying the rounds now? I asked the same question to Bailey Brooke. He just said, I just avoid going down the pub now.
Yeah. Yeah, I just drink at home. It's much cheaper. No, all the money I did get from Masters, half of it went to HMRC. And the other half went on rent, and that was it. And suddenly, after at the end of that year, I thought, oh, we're all right. And then you pay your tax bill, you pay your rent, you book a holiday, and you suddenly go, I'm literally back to square one. Do you know what I mean? No,
that's why you should become an actor, fellas.
Honest to God. Yeah, no, it's easy to drink. Well, my whole thing on this is I like gin, so you buy a bottle of gin and a mixer, and it's like £20 for a single gin in town now. You have to listen to crap music. So I'd rather sit in the comfort of my home with my own measurement and YouTube, where I can listen to Queens of the Stone Age without, being disturbed.
Are you actually 54?
Yeah.
This is what my girlfriend keeps saying to me. She's like, "Why are you senile? Like, what is going on?"
Is there someone that looks after you?
What you're saying, the reception we've had so far at Masters has been insane. We kind of you never know, do you? You don't know anything in this industry. You would like to hope, off the back of it being Hanks and Spielberg, off the back of it Band of Brothers and the Pacific, you would hope that it would be received, but you never know, do you? How things are cut together, and that whole, we finished in 2021 and it's only just come out. So you're like, are people going to, is there still a thing for that? Are people going to be interested in it? And it does, the reception has been fantastic so far.
Yeah, because we're on, because of what we do, and we do battlefield tours and that kind of stuff, like I am plugged into the history nerd ether the entire time. This has been very, very, very long awaited. People were so excited for this show to come out. So what you'll probably find is it'll end with episode 9, I believe, and then I think there's a documentary Matt was telling me, which apparently is kick ass. And then there will be a mourning period, and then people will just start watching it over and over and over and over and over again. And then it'll start to grow and grow, which is what happened with Band.
Exactly.
For lots of different reasons, it started quite slow. September the 11th being one of them. And then over years, and then in 10 years' time, you'll just be, at the Library of Congress at an event or something, just hosting it with all your mates, thinking, I can't believe we're still talking about this. Yeah. But there are people that are new to it that year.
Yes, right. Yeah. Because obviously I'd seen, firstly, if we have half the success Band of Brothers has, that would be amazing. I'd seen Band of Brothers, God, I think when I was like 15, 16, I think, which was, and then we had to rewatch it again. I've seen it about 5 times anyway, just because it's the same sort of thing. Everyone is so good. And I think that's why Hanks and Spielberg do it so well. everyone in Band of Brothers is phenomenal. Whether it's Damian Lewis or whether they've got a line or whether it's the same with Masters. Everyone in their moment, whether it's Callum or Austin or the guy who's got one line over there, everyone's so good. And it's, I hope, it would be, we rewatched Band of Brothers. We all had to sit down and watch it again. Everyone had seen it anyway. And it was like, that was when the thing dawned on us all, like, God, this would be nice if this is, as good as Band.
It's going to outlast.
Who made you watch it? It wasn't Captain Guy, was it? Did Captain Guy make you watch it? Yeah, watch out for Colonel Singh, people, because he's the best goddamn thing in it.
He was, what a guy. God, he's had a life. So no, it was hopefully, it would have the same reception that, in 20 years' time that Band of Brothers does. I'm just, as I say, I had a pint last night with Lewis, who's a mate of mine who plays Bubbles Payne. We've known each other we did a show together when we were 14 and 17. And the pair of us we hadn't seen it. We saw each other at the premiere in January, but obviously the premiere was ridiculous. And like everybody's there. And it's like, you sort of can't relax at those things because you don't know, who is and isn't there, who is,
who to be nice to, yeah.
It's also the thing you just want to talk to your mates, but then your agents there, there's casting actors there, there's producers, the execs, Apple's there, all these, and you're like, sort of, I want to go and sit in the pub and talk to my mates. So me and Louis hadn't seen each other, but we sat last night in Manchester for a couple of hours and just were like, well, that was good, wasn't it? Because we were both just sort of buzzing, going, I'm so proud of you, and I'm so proud of you, and this was good, no, that was good, and this was, because it's the first time we sort of, it's now we've seen it all. Well, we've seen all of our bits, and it was like, well done, mate. And he was like, yeah, well done, mate. This is really proud of this. So yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, Josh, I did want to just say thank you too, because not only did you help represent Pappy Lewis's legacy, you're representative of all the co-pilots in the 100th and 8th Air Force in general. And I've talked to a lot of the families of 100th veterans who have seen the series, and some of our veterans who are still with us have seen it, and it's meant a great deal to them. Like, they've been really impressed with what you guys have done, and been so respectful of these guys' legacy. It just means a lot to these guys. So thank you.
Thanks. No, thank you. That's so lovely. That that's the sort of, that was what we we kept having to remind ourselves that these were real guys. These were real guys. Because it's easy to get carried away when you're on a set and you're doing acting. Thankfully, because of all the producers and stuff, and everyone was quite good at remembering that, no, this is what these people are real. This happened. But thanks, man. I mean, that's so lovely. That means a lot. I'm so glad that we could do our tiny bit in remembering their legacy and what they did. It's insane when you watch it and you think that was real. It's insane what those fellas did, put themselves through. And because now, me doing one of those missions and surviving, there is absolutely no chance I would go up again. No chance. The bullets that were getting fired are like that big. The fuel reserves that big. The chances of getting hit were like, it was how they did it. It's insane.
Yeah.
So thanks, Matt. Yeah. So thank you. That means a lot.
No, but I think it was John Orloff was talking about the band veterans, and he was like, when the huge Ferrari kicked off and then everyone got into it and wanted to meet the veterans, he was like, it was keeping these guys alive. Do you know what I mean? It kept some of these guys alive for another 10 years. I mean, if you guys can keep some of these veterans alive for another 10 years, you're going to be breaking world records. But
that
would be very, very, I mean, it does, I'm just being facetious, but it does mean a huge amount to these fellas. It's like it just totally sort of energizes them. It's such a cool thing for them to be a part of. And then, this was us. And I thought nobody cared. And they don't realize how much people care.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's more relevant now as well than ever, considering what's going on in the world. It's like, how have people not learned? Do you know what I mean? From all this, it's insane. So yeah, but no, it was the best. It was the best experience so far in my career. You know what I mean? It was the best. I had the best time. There was, it was, as I say, probably the most challenging thing was the plane stuff. And then even the little things, thank God for Dale died, because, you'd even be stood there one day where you just put your hand in your pocket and it was get your hands out your fucking pocket, son. And you're like, okay, yeah, of course you have to. You're always, at attention. You always have to remember to take your hat off. It was, which was really good because it does constantly keep you in the mindset of we're soldiers. Do you know what I mean? We are like, some of the guys took it too far with the accent. A lot of people stayed in character. We did at the start, and then it was like, it's some people's method work that way. I'm not confident enough to stay in character because if I'm doing it wrong, the accent, I don't want to commit to doing that wrong when I'm offset. I'd rather have the dialect coach go, no, say it again. Like,
also, sometimes when you're wandering around Tesco Metro in a pair of flip-flops on a Sunday, it's hard to be in character for World War II bomber pilot. You just come off mental.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You can't sort of, there has to be, I'm just not confident enough to do that. The guys that did do that did it very well, and I take my hat off to them. That whole process terrifies me. So, yeah.
Yeah. So we've had you for almost an hour, which thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me, gents.
We have one more question, though, which I always ask everybody because we subtitled this podcast "The Nearly Men." So, is there something in your life or career that you could nearly? If he's coming on the tour. Oh yeah. The other thing, Josh, is we're going to do a Masters of the Air tour in September.
Fab.
And Bailey's coming on it, and if you want to come on, hit us off camera. Obviously,
that'd be lovely. Yeah,
paid for and everything. We'll pay you for coming. It's a proper gig, but if we can get you there as well, that would be great.
That'd be lovely. Yeah, that'd be really good.
And it's in England, so you're not flying out all the. We're doing East Anglia and all those. It'll be really cool.
Oh, nice.
Sorry, the producer made me do that. Right, bit of plug in. So, is there something that you could have been that you didn't end up being? Dougie could have been both a fireman, a carpenter. He was a stripper for a while, but that didn't go too well. So is there something that maybe you trained to be like weirdly off the cuff? Obviously not a footballer, as you don't know anything about football.
No, I've always been an actor. My thing is, my running joke that my friends have with me is I've never worked a day in my life. I've been very fortunate.
And yet the HMRC takes half your money. It doesn't seem.
Do you know what I mean? I started when I was 12, and I've been very, very fortunate, very, very lucky to have managed to live off being an actor, which I know is very lucky because we all know how.
Well, hang on, there's a message from your dad's just come in. That's not true. I gave him £600 for his rent.
Yeah, there's 1,000 parts that were nearly made. Do you know what I mean? That were like there were things that you go, oh God, imagine that. But
which is the most memorable ones of the nearly parts did you get then, or wish that you'd really got? Have you had? I'm sure you've had one where you've gone, I'm really wanted that and didn't get it, or
Stranger Things, to play the oldest son who was a British, I can't remember his name, Jonathan.
Charlie Heaton. I'm really sorry, Josh, to tell you this, but I did his audition, and I called up. This is not a lie. This is a great
really.
There is a place on Coptic Street in Soho. There's a self-tape studio, and I was kind of working with a guy that owned it because I was just helping him do self-tapes. And he called me up and he said, I've got this kid coming in tomorrow, and I can't be bothered to do it or something. Do you mind reading in for him? So this shambling kid comes in, and he's got this agent who is tweaked out of his mind, like talking. And I was like, we go into this room, and I was like, who is that guy? And he's like, oh, it's my agent. And I was like, are you all right with him? He's like, yeah, he's all right. He's got me this. So I put the camera on him, and he reads for a Scottish indie film. And I was like, bloody hell, this kid's good. And then he reads for Stranger Things straight afterwards. And I was like, I went out and I called my then agent, which is also Doug's agent now. And I was like, there is a kid in here who is freaking fantastic. And he's not happy with his agent. You have to sign him. His name's Charlie Heaton. That was the audition for Stranger Things. And she didn't listen to me, and then she called me later, like months later, was like, "You were right. That guy's absolutely brilliant."
No, he's a
so I actually did the audition was absolutely stunning. It was like, this kid is fantastic. So,
God, no, fairness. He's brilliant. Yeah, but that was I went through an absolute rigmarole for that part. I had so many recalls and tapes, and it was like, so nearly there. And then they were like, they've got a favourite now, and it was him. And I was like, and then I didn't watch Stranger Things for about 2 years after it came out because I was so like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? And then it's now the biggest show one of the biggest shows in the world. But I have since watched it, and everyone is phenomenal, and he is really phenomenal, and he's a really nice guy. So fair play.
He was a really nice kid.
But that was that was the nearly part where I was like, oh God, that would have been fantastic. But then I wouldn't have done Masters of the Air because I would have been signed up to do Stranger Things. So
where are you now, Charlie Heaton?
Yeah, exactly. You're not Masters of the Air.
Not on this podcast. That's where you're not. All right. Thank you so much, Josh. It's been really, really cool having you on, mate.
Thanks so much.
And we'll email you about the tour, man.
Yes, please do. That'd be great. Actually, that sounds really exciting.
It's a proper gig, yeah.
That'd be lovely. So nice to meet you all. Thank you so much.
You too, man.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Josh. God bless.
See you soon.
Right.
Take care, guys.
Cheers, buddy.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye, guys.
Cheers.
Feel bad about that Stranger Things audition now. I can't believe I was the guy that read, and it was like, you got to sign this kid. He's absolutely brilliant.
You told me that story, and it's like, the right man got the job. But the thing is that Josh has been the right man for many jobs as well. So they're doing unbelievably. He's doing exceptionally well, isn't he?
He is doing really.
He's a
really
lovely guy.
Yeah, really nice guy.
I hope it continues for him. Yeah.
Just make sure if he's back in that show, make sure Mark Warren doesn't fall off the wagon anywhere near you. Otherwise, you're in trouble. Any road up, as they say. It's been an hour. I've got to take my son to rugby practice. So we will be recording again probably at the weekend. And until that moment, thank you very much for listening. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to our Patreons. If you haven't signed up to Patreon yet and you'd like to support the pod, we appreciate it very much. There is a link on the website. Go ahead and do that. Thank you very much. And you'll get a shout out here. Other than that, thank you so much. And we will speak to you soon.
See you later. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, fellas.